Okay, so here we are. So far we've done our thumbnail, we've looked at our values in this beautiful landscape here. We've got the path going down through the rhodos. We've covered the canvas, we have it totally covered. And now I'm going to start in with some more detail. Again, I'm not being a slave to the scene. I'm picking and choosing what I want in this painting. I'm being selective. I can always go back and add other things because other than the thumbnail, I've also taken some pictures of this scene. I can always go back when I get home too. So from now, I'm just gonna start in and I'm just gonna add a little bit more detail. Just keep in mind, cooler, grayer, further away, warmer as you move forward, warmer and darker. And you can see that I've left my path very light. I'll come in and put in a few other darks in here. You can tell that I've indicated those trees. I'll work on those a little bit, work on some of my rhododendron leaves. Other than that, I'm not gonna do a whole lot more to it because remember with plein air painting, you're trying to be quick. You know, you'd really ideally like to finish a painting in an hour, hour and a half, 2 maybe. What your goal is, you know, I just kind of like to get something loose, and I find that if I can leave it loose, the painting itself has more energy to it. It just feels better. And if I try to go in with too much detail, I lose that energy. Some of the paintings that I've done that have been my very favorite have actually been done in probably less than an hour. Okay, our light is gone right now and we'll just see what happens with that. With plein air painting, you just have to kind of go with it. Take what you've got and be happy. Okay, so I've indicated some of those leaves right around this little pathway. Okay. Gonna need some more blue. But we're getting really close on this one. I'm just gonna kind of clean up some of these edges. I want that to come a little bit higher up in there. Just indicate some of those leaves. Bring them up a little bit higher. I've left out a couple of the trees that I feel like are just kind of distracting. I want to darken up this area. Add a little bit of red into that green, take that edge off. Really don't want to be using colors straight out of the tube. I'm going to vary them up. I'm going to go up the edge of this main rhododendron with a little bit of, just to give it some separation. And you'll find that when you are going with your lights and darks, and just keep that in mind, darker darks, lighter lights, and just, it separates everything. It'll separate your planes of light. You'll be amazed. But if you can just keep that in your mind, lighter lights, darker darks, and keep going until, you know, you're happy with it. And stop at any point. Darken up right in here where that rhododendron is. Still just getting a dab of my Galkyd on there. Okay. Going to keep on going. And as I get, you know, toward the end, I'm going to make bigger strokes. I'm going to try to leave them alone, but I find that very hard to do. That's always a battle. Make a mark and leave it alone. Adds to the energy of your painting if you can do that. got some nice light, but that light's coming over this way. I'm just going to indicate the tips of those rhododendron leaves. I'll probably come back in there and put in a couple of those trunks. Don't want to get overly detailed. Here comes that sun. It's a great thing. Maybe give this a little bit of light up in here just to carry on that, just to unify that light up there. Like I say, you've got to work fast. You've got to work very, very fast when you're painting outdoors. But what a glorious way to spend an afternoon. Step back, take a look. How much more detail do you want? Give it a little more here. Okay, I'm looking down here. I'm seeing some lights, some very lights. I'm going to go back to my little bit of my cool yellow and just give a couple touches up in here to just indicate. Remember, we're indicating how that light is playing around this path. Okay, now I'm going to need some lighter lights over here. Let's see. The light's getting pretty bright. Just give that a couple touches. It's probably a little more yellow than what I want. I've got some red mixed in there. Let's throw some white in to dull that down a little bit. Now, you've got a lot of wet paint on your canvas at this point, okay? So if you find it really difficult to get those highlights on there, no worries. Just wait until you get home. You've got your photographs, you've got your sketches. You can easily do that once you get home. So no worries. Bring that rhododendron back in here. Warm up those highlights a little bit. Remember, warmth, warm colors, going to bring it all forward. Okay, so I've pushed back this clump of rhododendron. I've tried to push it back with my darker colors. I've tried to pull this one on the right forward by using the warmer and the lighter. Pretty happy with that. Okay, so I'm just gonna step back. I'm gonna rinse out my brush and I'm gonna work on some of those highlights on that path and some of the highlights in the leaves that are on the ground. Okay, got this lint-free. I just use cut up t-shirts to wipe off my brush. Or I mainly use those paper towels, the lint-free paper towels, for wiping down my palette. I'll get a little bit of the solvent out and give it a wipe in between the different steps that I'm taking. Okay, so let's start. I think we'll go back to those tree trunks for a moment while we've got some light on them. Let's do that. Okay, so what I'm just mixing up kind of a warm gray. And now if you'll notice what I've done so far, I have just basically taken paint away so far. So now what I'm going to do, see that darker edge on those trees, I don't want a straight line. I am just going to come down here, and I don't want to just bring a straight line down. It doesn't look natural. So I'm taking my smaller brush, this is like a number 2, and I'm just going to come down through here and just kind of indicate that darker edge. And I'll give it a little horizontal tap. But what you don't want would be one straight line of a tree going from your rhododendron up through that sky. Okay, so I'm gonna see, there goes that sun again. Trees are not straight up and down. Not normally. I'm using a cool color for this dark side. I want some movement to these tree trunks. Okay, I'll come back in just a minute and add in some highlights there. I also don't want it all the same color. What I try to do when I'm painting, I'll mix up a little bit, and I don't want every stroke that I make, like I'll go back into my green and pull it over here. Just change it up a little bit. Try not to stick with one color constantly. Change it up. You don't want it exact. Just pull that color through there. We're going to take that horizontal. Okay, we've got you can see I'm going up in this right hand corner, which one of the challenges of this paint box, but I still love it, because of the convenience of it. Okay, so you can see our trees coming out now. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to rinse off that brush, and I'm going to throw some highlights on that left hand side of that tree. Okay, it'll work kind of fast. Let's see what happens here. I'll put a little green in there. I like to spread the color around too. You don't want your paintings color blocked, and by that I mean blue sky, green tree, you know, you want to mix it up. So I'm going to bring that green up into that tree somewhat. Okay, and probably at the end I'm probably going to bring in a pretty strong white to just pop those trees on that side where they really are getting that light. Okay, but just smudge them. Nothing too perfect. Not going for perfect. Lose the top of them. You don't have to see the top. Come back with that horizontal stroke. And that gives you the feeling of the roundness of that trunk. Okay. All right, I think I'm gonna leave the trees alone. I'll just go with that. Oh, wait. Yeah, what I do sometimes with the tops of these, you see how this should not be a sharp edge, is what I'm trying to say. Should not be you don't want a sharp edge right here, because these are tops of trees. Just keep that in mind, tops of trees. Okay, and see that mountain back there. Get a little bit of that green up in there is just fine. Okay, so now you get a feeling of those distant trees, hopefully. Okay. I'm going to come back in with, let's see. Do some of those rhododendron vines, but not all. There again, I'm going to go with a little bit lighter. You can see how the light is catching them from where it's coming. I'm just going to barely indicate those. They're kind of a grade down. And I don't want to just paint in branch after branch. You can take this as far as you want to. You can stop at any point you want to. Okay, I'm just going to indicate some branches down here. And remember, this is the area that I want less focus on. So I don't want the eye to go to that area, so I'm not going to give it a lot of detail. Okay. Okay, the sun's in now, but when it was out, there was a really nice shadow running across those leaves. And I am just going to take that up in here. Go with a nice warm color. And it kind of came up and over. Now I'm standing back, I'm looking, anything I want to touch up, I will kind of do that now. I think I'll go with some highlights on that road, or pathway. Now remember, my focal area is right in here. So I want my lightest light and my darkest dark. That's where I want to put it. And my sharpest edge. Okay, so I'm just gonna come in there. I'm gonna give this path a little bit of life and light. I like to look at it like that. I'm gonna keep my lightest back in here. I'm gonna dull this down just a smidgen and come in here with some, because we don't, right now it's just too straight across and perfect. We want to give that some highlight and some shadow. Okay, so I'm going to wipe off my brush because white will kind of gray everything down, and I want a few little dark, I want some dark areas on this pathway just to, and when I'm putting these darks, it's just going to make those whites pop even more. Okay, so you can see the shadow of those trees coming across. Just going to darken it up some. And really at any point, I could stop and just call it a day. Got some little dark areas over here. You want to give the illusion of a dappled light on this path. I could play with this all day long. You're just standing back, you're looking, how do you like it? You know, what stands out? And mainly, are you having fun? That's the most important thing. Okay. Got a lot of paint on here, so I believe what I am going to choose to do would be to just stop right here and then maybe come in with some higher, lighter lights once this painting has just had a little bit of time to tack up. And some darks. Because I really do find the less I mess with it, the happier I am with the painting afterward. Oh, okay, I do need to do those lightest lights on those tree trunks. I'll do that. It's getting cloudier and windier. Okay, so you've got some sun coming through here. Tree trunk up there. I want a lighter light on there, but I'm having a hard time achieving that right now. So that's one of those things I'll probably do once I get it in. Okay, so there you have it. Plein air painting. Hope this was helpful. I'm going to stop here. I'll take this home with me. I will look at it. I'll add maybe some lighter highlights at some point, and we're all done.